In this section, guys, you will learn all about rotoscoping. But what exactly is rotoscoping? A short definition is to separate a foreground or a subject from its background. This will allow you to use the foreground in a different scene, a different scenario with a different background. You will learn how to do rotoscoping with the Roto brush tool in After Effects, and not the old-fashioned traditional way of using several masks and stories like this. You will start by learning how to use the Roto brush tool to define your subject or the foreground, how to use the Refine Edge tool to get better results on fine elements, and how to propagate the brush strokes to get a perfect rotoscoping for your foreground. Then you will use the foreground on a different background and use the Roto brush effect properties to do more fine adjustment and blend the foreground with the new background. I provided you with several videos you can use as practice, and I hope you do practice. So let's dive in and do some rotoscoping. As we said, guys, rotoscoping is separating an object, an element, or a subject, if you like, from its background. And then you can change the background and give it any other background you would like. This is very practical when you didn't shoot in front of a green screen. If you want to follow along with me, please open the project file rotoscoping start.aep. And in this project, you have 4 videos here. We are going to try to work on most of them. The first and easiest one is the man walking in the desert here. If you notice, you have a guy walking in the desert, and then you want to separate this guy from the background, which is the desert, very dull, and put him like walking in the rain or to fire, whatever you like. Another one that is pretty complicated and very nice is to separate the leaves from the blurred background. And notice there is quite some work here to do because the leaves and the background are almost similar colors. The technique I will show you will even allow you to do this one very easily. Then you have the photographer here, a video we have already used, and it's very interesting to use this one because she has some hair here, delicate, details that you want to keep after rotoscoping. So usually when you are rotoscoping, you don't want to use the whole video shot. Like for example, there is nothing here, and here you don't want that, for example. So you can decide where to start your footage. For example, you can start the footage from here and put the in point, then go to wherever you want to end, for example over here, and put the out point. Cool. Now you have defined your footage. Defining your footage here is much better than creating a composition with the whole footage start trimming inside the composition. This is a much better way because you have limited your footage and you know exactly what you're working on. So now, after working on the footage panel, you can click and drag the footage to create a new composition. And you notice here you have the composition exactly like your footage. Cool. Let's close the footage panel. To do rotoscoping in After Effects, the best way is to use the Roto brush tool. If you click on it, you have Roto brush and Refine Edge, 2 very powerful tools. Let's start with the Roto brush, which will allow us to select our subject or the foreground. And later on, the Refine Edge tool will allow us to refine the edges, as simple as this. We start with the Roto brush. But you notice in the composition panel here, there is nothing. I can't use the Roto brush. Use the Roto brush in the layer panel. So to open the layer panel, of course, you double click, and here you are in the layer panel. Now this is the Roto brush tool. When it's green, it's used to do the selection. If you press Alt or Option on the Mac, it will become red and you have a negative sign. Now it is used to deselect foreground or background. To adjust the size, you can press Ctrl or Command on the Mac and go left and right to make it bigger or smaller. Here you are. For example, I make it this size here. You notice it's quite practical. Now the first thing to do is to set your timeline indicator at the beginning of your footage in the composition panel. Of course, you notice they're moving in sync here with the layer panel. And then you start doing the selection. What you want to do is the best selection possible for now. So I click and drag. Here you are. I'm trying to select everything. You don't have to be very meticulous. Don't go too much around the borders. Something like this will be okay. Fine. I love this work, so usually I go very nicely one by one, and I love the result. Now you have done your first selection, and you notice you have a purple line all around. The purple line will define the foreground or your subject. Whatever is inside the closed purple line, it is your foreground, and whatever is outside, it is your background. You can click on your composition panel already and see the results. You notice that the background has disappeared, and whatever was within the purple line, it's your foreground. But you notice we need to adjust it a bit over here. Let's go back here. And the way I like working, first of all, I like to look at the big elements. For example, here we missed a big part from the dress here. So I'm gonna click and start adding. Okay, notice how the purple line has moved, and I'm gonna do another one just over here. Better yet is to press Alt, point wherever you want to select, and roll the mouse button so you know exactly what you want to select. So I press Ctrl here to make the brush a bit smaller. Come over here and select this piece. I'm happy with it. It's very nice that you are very meticulous. If you press the spacebar and move, it will show you the results. So you can come and see exactly what has been removed and what's staying here. Here you are. Very nice. Now press over here, and we know that you want to take the hair. Later on we'll refine it. Not bad. It's okay. I don't like it very much. I'm gonna remove it. You see, I press Alt or Option on the Mac. Now on the minus, I removed it. We will work with the refine tool to get this one right. Cool. You want now to use the zoom in. That's Alt or Option on the Mac and /. Here you are. Let's go to the face over here. I press Alt, zoom in, and simply try to take as much as I can. Now, I like to be meticulous. I like to be very precise, and it will save you a lot of problems. And also, your work will look much better and much nicer, not like a beginner. Over here, I need to adjust. So I will roll the mouse, press Alt to make it negative, and then remove this background from here. Okay, and another time. Okay, let's press spacebar and go down. Press Alt and remove this background from here. Right, it's working very fine. I want to adjust this one even more. Okay, here you are. Let's go down, and here you are. Fine. And maybe you would want to remove this dot. It's working a bit, not too much. Okay, this is being very aggressive. Let's press Alt and /. to see. Let's go to our composition and notice, well, it's okay. It's not bad. Maybe here we need to look at it, and the camera, it has taken a piece we don't want. I press Alt, zoom in, and here I want to remove this piece just over here. Here you are. Again. So you did the first selection. You just started. And from this selection, you are going to start refining the edges and rotoscoping the whole 2 seconds or 3 seconds that you have. In the next lecture, we start using the Refine Edge tool to work on the hair. In the previous lecture, guys, we did our first selection, trying to include all the foreground that we want. And we got some result within the composition panel that you can see them. But also you notice that the edges are really pretty rough. We need to refine these edges. So let's go back to our layer panel. And now we can use the Refine Edge tool here. Well, the Refine Edge tool, of course, it starts with a plus, meaning you can add strokes where you are going to refine the edges all around if you like. And if you press Alt or Option on the Mac, you are removing strokes where you have refined the edges. Cool. So let's try to put a stroke all around her head here for it to refine the edges for the hair. So I'll click over here and just drag it around. I like to have the plus sign on the purple line here just to make sure that everything is taken in consideration in and out. Okay. So I will stop over here. That's fine. Then continue just over here. Okay. So what exactly is appearing here? This is what you call the X-ray view. If you come to this button here, it says toggle refine edge X-ray. Well, what are we seeing? The black is not going to be taken in consideration and it's already transparent. The white is where the work is going to be to add these small elements or these small refined elements over here. You are refining the edges. Also the same as over here. Now with the X-ray, you can see exactly what you have done and what areas or what strokes you have added to see what's going to be refined. You can put it off and you are back to the boundary line, and the boundary line is called alpha boundary if you like. If you come back now to your composition, you can see that you have added, quite some interesting details all over. Of course, it will take some work here to adjust them. There is some gray, but that is okay. Maybe it's pretty good. Let's go back here. If you notice, these buttons here are very useful. The first one you have seen is toggle refine X-ray. So you put it on or off. Okay. The second one is about toggle alpha. If you click on it, you will notice that you can see only the alpha channel here, which is a pretty rough alpha channel. The black is totally transparent, and this is your foreground or your subject. You can put it off. And the next one is toggle alpha boundary. Is what we are working on. You will see the purple line, which is the boundary of the alpha channel. Another useful one is the alpha overlay. If you select it, then it will add an overlay for a certain color that you select from over here. You can change this color, for example, make it blue, whatever. It will give you, a better view of what is happening and how you have done your selection and your refinement. You can also increase the opacity to see exactly your work, if it works that way. I'll get it back to 50% is the best to look at your work. So if you come back to your composition here, you have refined the edges and the strokes are just over here. You can see them. So actually, this is the refine edge tool. You will take it around and you create a stroke on the edges where you want the edges to be refined. Please guys, I've seen a lot of work where they go on and do everything all around. Well, that could be pretty cool sometimes, but not all the time, because it's going to create some areas that will need more work, just like here. If you notice, though I included the hair, also you can see there is some shading here I need to work on if I were to do a very professional job. So this is about the refine edge tool, and I hope you understood. Before we start working and rotoscoping for the whole duration of the video, I would like to show you what's happening in the timeline. If you scroll down here, you will notice that you have a series of strokes. They are all grouped under strokes over here. And you have edge refinement, for example, you have foreground and you have background. Let's go to the first stroke we have put. It is the foreground one. So you notice it's a roto brush, which means it's going to give you a brush stroke here. Just like the brush tool or the eraser tool, for example, you will get certain strokes. The foreground strokes are the ones that are selecting your foreground. Your background strokes are the ones that are deselecting your background, as this. It's very nice, by the way, to work with these ones. So actually you have properties for each stroke. You have the stroke option, for example. You can even scrub through it. That is a kind of trim path if you like. You can animate it. You can change the diameter, the angle, the hardness. Okay, all these properties you can come over and play with them. And also for the background strokes, you have exactly the same. You have the stroke options with all the properties that you can even animate. So it becomes actually pretty interesting to work with them. I must confess this is quite advanced and it's quite hard to adjust them from here. But nevertheless, if you come to the timeline, you will notice that these are the strokes and each one of them is 1 frame long. Now we want to go ahead and propagate all our strokes for the duration of the video. And more, when After Effects selected a background, we want to deselect this background, so we'll add a background stroke. And when After Effects did not select the foreground, we are going to add another foreground stroke, and we go on until the end of the footage. You notice over here you have a bar which has some kind of arrows. This is going forward. It means After Effects will work 20 frames at a time. Notice if I go to 20 frames, actually it's exactly 20 frames. That is the steps, if you like, 20 frames at a time. And you have the green, this has been rendered. So how do you work here? Well, some people decide, okay, to press spacebar and to play, so After Effects will render according to the strokes. But I do prefer to go a frame at a time. And believe me, when you go a frame at a time, it will be much easier because you can see exactly what's happening and you don't have to go back and forth and try to figure out what After Effects missed. So I will click on the playhead in the layer and just press page down. And notice that After Effects has moved the strokes with the foreground. Another page down, and it's still okay. Everything is selected in its right way, foreground and background. And we go on, here you are, until we find a certain problem. For example, I don't know, it's doing very well until now. We are going to miss this hair, but I'm gonna go for it and miss it. There's no problem. And we go on. So notice there is a green line over here. This means this has been rendered. Let's go ahead again. And here you are. Some problems are going to start, which is over here. It's your choice to start deselecting this one or leave it until it becomes a bit bigger. Maybe if necessary. I will leave it. It's okay. Then we're looking at the camera, the face and everything. We want the boundaries to be quite correct. Okay, that's another one. Notice how I'm doing it. I'm waiting it for it to render. Not just press page down. You want it to render. Notice what's happening here. Now we are at 20 frames and the arrows have finished. Well, I can come over, and that's what I usually do, and stretch them just to the end. I don't care. And then start going again, page down for each one of them. And look if I have any problems. Well, this is a very good way to work because you will spot the problem and fix it immediately. You don't have to wait for, until the end it has played. Where is the problem? Here you are. I'm going to go a bit faster. And this is our first problem over here. Okay. You notice here, we have a background selected. We need to deselect this one. I will go page up, meaning backward, then forward. Okay. Starting from this frame. I press Alt and zoom in. And then press Ctrl to make the brush very small. And I'm at the bottom here, so I press Alt to remove. I'm going to select this area. Okay, notice it has selected very well. Now, when you have a trouble area, maybe you want to go page down and look at this trouble area until you notice there is no more trouble. I think he got it. Okay, After Effects got it. So now I will zoom out. Okay, and go backward. Right? Okay, this is how I work. You might invite another way. It's okay. And I'm noticing here that the camera is not being selected. If I go to the alpha, you will notice like there is something wrong with the camera. Let's go for a zoom here. And yes, I was right. So I'm going to select this part of the camera. Okay, that's fine now. And notice in the timeline, it has added at the time where I am a foreground and a background. The background was before. Now, let's go back to 100% and go page down again. Well, we're starting to have some problems. Okay, you notice this area over here. I press Alt, zoom in. I need to go up, and here you are. I press Alt for negative or removing background. I just select this area, and hopefully it will do a good job. Excellent job if you notice. Now I'll go back to 100%. And I think we're still cool everywhere else. And if you notice here, we have a problem with the camera again. But I want to go back and make sure I didn't notice this problem before. So I will zoom in. Notice the camera is not selected. And reselect the camera. Okay, guys? See what's going to happen. Select this part of the camera. And the fingers here. Maybe you need to do 2-3 passes here. We want this finger. Okay, we're cool a bit. Fine. I'm zooming out now. And let's go page up and notice, did we do any mistake? Okay, no, we're cool here. Go down. Still the camera is being deselected at this frame. So what I'm going to do is to zoom in here. Okay, and select and stay zoomed in over here, and then go page down, okay, to notice exactly what's happening. Well, I'm gonna go back, and here you are, the camera has been eaten up, and let's select it more. Okay, and you know the problem is coming from the refine edges here, so I'm gonna make sure that I'm selecting it very right. And again, and I hope After Effects will get it this time. Okay, I'm pretty fine. I don't want this area here, it makes the camera a bit distorted. Gonna remove it. Cool. Let's zoom out a bit, just a bit. Go page down. So we are going to select again. Okay, here you are, everything is fine, I hope so. Then go page down, and here you are. Now it's working very fine. Okay, now you have this area here that has appeared. Let's go page up, and it starts from here. So I'm gonna press Alt and remove this area, and hopefully it will work very fine. Okay, my stroke has been very bad, but actually it worked. I'm gonna add this piece here. Not bad at all. I'm doing a good job, right guys? Talking to you also. So I'm gonna go another frame down, and here you are. We have another problem here. Let's try to remove this one. I doubt it will be removed. Well, After Effects is doing a great job. Let's go down again. Okay, so now it seems fine. We can defocus on this one and go down and look here. Well, here it seems very good. And then we go page down and page down. Okay guys, so you have to go page down until the end of the composition. But now you can simply zoom at 100%. Okay, if you want to do a shortcut, press space bar, and After Effects will start searching and rendering and trying to do it as best as possible. You need to stop it as soon as you find a mistake. Don't go to the end and then find a mistake. Like we have a mistake over here, but I'm gonna let it go. We are almost at the end. Okay, so now it has completed, but we still have this mistake we need to take care of. It's just over here. So let's see where it started. It started just here. Okay, so from here, I'm gonna zoom in, and of course, I'm gonna use the -1, selecting foreground, or deselecting foreground, and here you are. Now I'm gonna go page down and see exactly if it's gonna grab it a bit more. You notice this has happened because the colors here are very similar. So I'm gonna go again. It seems it's working fine. Yes, so one single correction is enough to do it for all the other frames. Okay, press space bar. Let's zoom at 100% again. And I think we are very cool doing this rotoscoping. So we still need it to render. This green line has to come till the end. So actually it will render in the background and it will come till the end. Here you are. Notice now it's gonna work. Fine. Let's go to the composition now and see exactly if you have done a good job. Here you are. I press space bar, and it's pretty cool. Actually, it's very good job, considering that I was trying to talk to you and stories like this. I've done a very good job, and I hope guys you will copy me and you go easy on it. Don't go pressing space bar, rush. Be meticulous, and you will not have any problems, for the whole video. That's very cool. Fine. So now that we have done the rotoscoping, we have the photographer taking a photo of nothing. In the next lecture, we add a video background and adjust the colors. So guys, what have we achieved until now? We rotoscoped the photographer and we got some very fine results here. But yet, we haven't used any of the properties within the roto brush and refine edge effect itself. Now, why is this? Because the way I like working is do the rotoscoping as best as I can, then drop in the new background and use the properties here to adjust according to the new background. So let's do this. I will first drop the background. I will choose a river. You can get any video you like that is good for the photographer here and just drop it under the photographer. Cool. Now the first thing you notice, this really needs color correction, or I would say color blending, or blending the subject within the environment. The subject is too natural here. The environment is a bit bluish. I will come back to the effects control now and select the photographer and notice a bit what's wrong. First of all, if the things that really strikes you is the camera over here, if I press Alt and zoom in, it has a kind of border. Let's look at the effect itself. It's actually divided in several sections here, but they are very easy to understand. The first one is Roto brush propagation. The properties within the Roto brush propagation would have helped you to propagate your strokes for the length of the video. Meaning you could have increased the search radius or work on the edge detection instead of balanced. You could have used one of these options. We'll do that later. The next group I would say is the fine-tune Roto brush matte. You remember here we had a matte, right guys? So the fine-tune Roto brush matte is by default checked. And when it's checked, all the properties within this Roto brush matte here are highlighted and you can work and adjust your matte. For example, you can increase the edges, notice, or decrease them if you like to. You know, at minus 100%, you are actually shrinking and expanding the matte. Okay, I'll put it back to 0. You could also work on the chatter or the feathering if you like to. So these will help you to adjust the Roto brush matte. If you uncheck, they will not be available anymore. So keep them checked. You notice here you have a render refine edge. Do you remember that? Okay, these are our refine edge. We put them with the refine edge tool. And if you don't want to render them at all, you will just uncheck this one and they will totally disappear. Notice guys, you don't have them anymore and the X here doesn't work anymore. But of course, if you put them, then you have to check it to render them. There is here the base refine edge radius. This is pretty interesting. Let's put on the edges and increase the base refine edge radius. Okay. I'll put it for just a random figure here to see the result. Now remember guys, I had asked you not to put the refine edge strokes all over the place, because you have this option of base refine edge radius, which will give you a radius all around your subject according to the strokes that you have put to define the subject. This is the Roto brush strokes. So you can use this property to add an edge all over your subject if you like. I'll put it back to 0. There is also the possibility to fine-tune refine edge matte. And if you scroll down, these are the properties that will help you to refine the edge matte. Okay. Now sometimes they are very useful. Here we have 2 strokes, but it's okay. Let's go back to the composition and we want to fix the contour just over here. So the best way is to use shift edges. If you remember, I put it a negative value. And you notice how the edges are shifting to the inside. So I'm reducing the matte here. Maybe 52 is too high. I don't know. Something like this. Cool. It seems it's fixed. I don't have this border anymore. Maybe also you should look around to see if it has destroyed something or everything is cool. I think it's okay for now. Just an example for you. And use the Roto brush matte properties to work on the matte itself and get the results that you want. Then to apply other effects, it will be much better to pre-compose. Here we are. And let's call this one Photographer Roto. And you move all the attributes. Here you are. So now what exactly is happening? In the pre-comp, you have the photographer with the rotoscoping. In the main composition now, it's clean, there is no effect, and you can apply any effect you want. In this case, we want to do color correction. I will not apply the lumetri color, it's too much work. I think here the curves will do much better. Let's go to Effects and Preset and use curves. Let's take curves and drop it on the layer itself. The curves effect will allow you to adjust the colors. You can adjust 3 of them, RGB, red, green, blue, or the alpha, which is not necessary here, or adjust 1 color. I will choose the blue here because obviously I need to add some blue, and I will take it up just like this. And the photographer is becoming as cold as the scene. Okay, you can notice. Now you can use the green if you like. I think you should take it up a bit. Much better. Let's go to the red, but I don't think we should use it here. I'll just take it down. Not bad at all. Okay, for a 2 minutes work. Now, of course, I would like to scale down. Now, I will take the photographer layer down. Okay, just over here. So now, if you play, it's pretty cool. Except her hair here, with the Refine Edge tool, we need to work on it a bit. So I leave it this as a homework for you to adjust it at 100% the way you would like. But actually, we really blended with the background and it looks quite natural. Guys, it's time now for your practice activity and challenge. And it's very important that at least you try the practice activity and you try the challenge. Well, my challenge to you is for you to do the rotoscoping and put a certain background. Now, your first challenge is the man video. This is a guy walking in the desert. What I would like you to do is choose like a couple of seconds, not more. And let's say you can start from here. So you set your in point for the footage and you go on. Now, I do not advise you to go all the way because of the sand in his feet is going to make a lot of problems to you. And actually, we are not into VFX. We just want to learn about rotoscoping. So maybe if you stop just over here before the shadow comes in, it will be very easy to be done. And you can really practice rotoscoping without worrying about other elements that you need to do to create a perfect visual effects. Of course, you want to create the composition now. And double click, go to your layer panel and start working on the Roto brush tool to get your guy, without the background. Then I would like you to go to any website that you know that will give you free photos or free videos better and get this guy into the background that you have chosen. The best would be a nice video. The guy is walking into a tunnel, a fire, whatever you like. And remember to do the blending with the color correction. You can use curves, it's pretty easy. Or you can do lumetri scopes if you went through this section already. And, I want to see it on YouTube, so I'm very proud that you have done a great job. Cool, guys. That's your first challenge. The second challenge now is a bit more tedious. Here you have the leaves. They are yellow and dark yellow, if you notice. But the background is all blurred. So, of course, as usual, you don't want to take the whole 6 seconds, though you can. And notice the movement here is quite tough to be done. Okay? But let's select, for example, from over here. In fact, they are very similar. And let's go for 2 seconds, not more, something like this. I think it will be okay. And of course, you put the out point. And from this, you will create your composition. You know already this. And you want to start rotoscoping now. Now, notice here you need to separate the leaves from the blurry background. And notice that inside the leaves, you will have very many blurry backgrounds because the leaves are, of course, moving with the wind. So there is quite some work here, and it's pretty interesting to see how you're gonna pull it off. It's gonna be quite an experience. Then later on, put it on a certain video or a certain image if you like. You can replicate the video to have more leaves, around the screen, something like this. So please use your imagination. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture.